Razlo from GameEAFun.com here to talk to you today about the PlayStation Move. I got a chance to check out the device and some of the early games and tech demos available for it, and I just figured I'd go over it with you here. First off, I just want to start with probably my favorite game that I got to see. The game's called Slider, and the point of the game is that you play either a Japanese office worker, or at least he looks like one, or a very scantily clad woman, and you ride downhill on an office chair, trying to escape from the Yakuza and doing tricks and stunts to make yourself go quicker while you're going downhill and avoiding obstacles. You also have the ability to attack. So when you see a Yakuza, you can just kind of do a spin kick on your computer chair and take them out. The game was pretty simple to control. Just you kind of wave the PlayStation Move up and down when you're trying to kick. You burst it forward when you're trying to do a really fast move. You hit the main button in the center of the PlayStation Move if you wanted to do a spin kick, and so on. So it was really simple to control. I didn't have any issues with it. It's got a really kind of ridiculous premise, which I enjoyed, and the visuals are appropriate for the kind of game that it is. So I thought that was really cool. One thing that was nice about it was just kind of how creative and off the wall the game was. If I was to say any sort of comparison, I would say it probably plays like a skateboarding game with some ducking and avoiding a little bit more than you'd have on a skateboarding game. But you can also grind rails and hit jumps and the sorts of things you do in a regular skateboarding game. So that's a pretty close analogy for how the game plays. But then of course it also has the combat element. And as you get further in on the demo, you start to run across more enemies. So I have a feeling that as you get further and further in the game, not only are you going to be doing the tricks and trying to get the best time and go as quickly downhill as possible, but you're also probably going to be facing off against a lot more enemies. So that's really a game that I am super excited to pick up when the device comes out. They didn't have a ton else to show at the event that I went to, but they did have their sporting game package, which they haven't named yet. They just called it Sports. It had a gladiator combat demo in there, where you play a gladiator from a first-person point of view. One PlayStation Move controller is your shield, and the other one is your sword, and you just kind of go in and attack your combatant. And you either try to wring them out like in Virtua Fighter, or just deplete their health all the way. It seemed like a really kind of cool game to have as just like a mini game inside a mini game compilation. And I think maybe another developer, like a fighting game developer or someone who wants to expand that out, could probably do a pretty cool fighting game with just a few additions to it. But definitely seemed like a really cool mini game to have as part of a mini game collection. A little strange to have it inside of a sports minigame compilation, even if I guess gladiatorial combat was technically a sport back in the day, but it doesn't seem as appropriate as maybe the table tennis game that they also had there. And the table tennis game was pretty self-explanatory. The computer player would lob a ball at you, you have to hit it back to them. Really nothing kind of amazing to really talk about there. It's exactly what you would expect it to be. The one thing I thought that was worth noting with all these games is, and one of the big selling points that there's going to have for the PlayStation Move, is that these games all look pretty good. They're roughly on par with the graphics of games that you would see that weren't motion controlled. So that's different from something that you might see on the Wii and that's one of their selling points. Definitely, it's fairly apparent is that they want to be the HD motion control system of choice for gamers, and whether they accomplish that or not, I guess we'll have to wait and see. The other game that they had was just like a party mini game compilation, which I don't know if it was just called Move. I didn't see the title screen on that one. That one's pretty much what you would expect from a mini game party game. One cool thing is they had a mechanic where players are constantly being told to switch off, and they use the photos of the players that they're asking to play at that particular moment, and then they'd give you like a random task to do, like popping bubbles or using fans to try to move birds into the right nest, or hitting things with a racquetball. And this game takes advantage of one of the other cool things with the PlayStation Move, which is its ability to kind of superimpose objects in your hands in the video that they're showing back on the TV screen. So this is something that I think a lot of games could probably use, assuming that they wanted to show the player in the game as well. And in a lot of instances, because of the way they did the lighting and because of the way that it's shown back on the TV screen, there's a few instances where the devices actually looked kind of real. I don't have video of it, but there was a racket that was superimposed in someone's hand, and it actually looked like they were holding a racket. And then you look over at the player and you see that they're just holding a PlayStation Move controller. So it's this kind of cool altered reality effect that they had there. So that's about it. That was about all that was there at the event, other than one other thing that was super cool, but still very early. They had a tech demo where they were showing some of the other features of the controller that they didn't have really games for yet. One of those features was where they essentially mapped an avatar to the player itself, and if you can look at it, it shows the guy from Sony R&D kind of showing you how he'd be able to punch and grab and do all these sorts of things that you might want to do in a fighting game or an action adventure game, but you're totally, it was a one-to-one movement with the actual avatar on screen, and he was just controlling the hands grabbing or slapping or whatever, either by moving the controller or by hitting a button to make the fists grip. So that's something where no game attached to it yet, but I could definitely see some cool possibilities for that down the line, and I hope some developer takes advantage of that. That's all I have for the first look at the PlayStation Move. It definitely seems like there's a lot of potential for the controller, and I can't wait to E3 to see some other games that get announced for it.